Okay, it's time for a new bread video because I have changed my recipe a little bit. It's easier. I've changed my procedures a little bit. I think it's easier. So I'm gonna get right to it and make some bread. All right, you're gonna need coffee, your starter, a measuring cup, a thermometer, a medium bowl, a scale, flour, obviously, all-purpose in this case, or wheat, or rye, if you want. Maybe other kinds of flour. Some salt, definitely need that, and a bigger bowl. And a spoon. Step 1, feeding the levain. Step 1 of that is making sure your starter is ready to go. So I have mine in here. It's looking all nice and bubbly. It's actually been fed both yesterday and the day before, so it's actually really active and ready to go. And I need 50 grams of that into my mixing bowl. So let's do that. Four, 8, 4, 9. Five, 0. Now next I like to add the water, of which we are going to need 200 grams between 85 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got some here. It's looking good at about 87.8. And the reason I like to do this is just to break up the starter. Makes it a little easier to mix. So we will do that. 200. Nine, 8, 200. Right on the money. So I'm just going to give that a quick little stir, get it all nice and mixed up. Basically at this point, like if you've made bread before with instant yeast, it kind of looks sort of familiar, right? It's just like this cloudy white, mixture or something like that. And now to this, we're looking for 200 grams of, I'm using all-purpose flour here. Usually I overshoot it and end up having to take some out. And try to do it very accurately today. 191, 98, 99, 200. Whoops. Wouldn't be baking if you didn't get flour all over the place at some point, right? Now, as I said in the intro, which I didn't record yet, so I hope I remember to say it, you also need an additional 50 grams of flour. Really, this could just be another 50 grams of all-purpose white flour if you want. Some people say that wheat and rye has additional nutrients in it that the yeast likes. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm pretty sure if you made it out of all white flour, it'd be fine. But I do have a separate mixture here of, this is actually, at this point, probably like half and half rye and whole wheat. So I need another 50 grams. Take this up to 250. $48, $49, $50. All right. And now we just mix it up. So let's give this a little quick mix here. Get this out of the way. Really nothing special here, just incorporating all the ingredients. scraping down the sides of the bowl, stuff like that. All that standard baking stuff. Kind of gave it almost a couple little stretch and folds with the little trick there. Get your hands wet if you need to like take dough off the spoon or something. Just makes things easier. Just kind of folding it over a little bit on top of itself, making sure everything's all nice and incorporated. No dry spots or anything. All right. So now this will get covered and then put, for me, it's kind of actually chilly today in the kitchen itself. So it's probably gonna go in the oven with just the oven light on to rise and bulk ferment, whatever they call it. Do its thing. Basically, let the yeast multiply before the next step, which is to make the final dough. All right, so we are about half an hour or so away from our take the levain out of the nice warm place because it's where it's been sitting. So we are going to start our auto-lyse, thing I never know how to pronounce. Basically just getting our flour and water all happy and getting the water hydrated into the flour particles. And so for that we will need 740 grams of white flour, otherwise known as a lot. 740. $17, 25, 8, oops, 7, 40. There we go. And then added to that, we are looking for 60 grams of our optional flour, just like before. You can use, this could be all white flour. I'm just gonna use that same mix I have of kind of half rye, half whole wheat. Just random bucket of flour I have here that I've been using. So I need an additional 60 grams of this. 1, 6, wow, look at that, 60. Perfect. All right. And then I'm actually gonna mix this a little bit. Just kind of get all the different flours mixed together. Obviously, if you only have one type of flour, you don't have to do this part. And I don't even know if this actually does anything. It's just something I do. Seems to make sense. A nice uniform, homogeneous mixture of flour particles before we dump the water in. Right? And now to measure out the water, which is 620 grams, 90 to 95. It's going to be a little warmer if you want. I'm doing this in a separate bowl because my big bowl with everything in it, I think overloaded my scale. So I just do this in a separate bowl. Doesn't really get it dirty because all I'm doing is putting water in it, and it's going to measure out 620 grams of water. 15. 17, 18, 19, come on. Couple more drops. 619. 620. Okay, now I can turn my sink off too that I kept running because I have to fill up that thing twice. Alright, so there we go. 620 grams of that. Now that is going to go into our flour. No salt yet. This is literally just getting water into the flour. And I believe also what I've read is that it does like activates some enzymes in the flour that the yeast actually need when they get in there and start doing their thing. I don't know why you don't do it with the starter part, but all the recipes just seem to not really care about the starter, but you would think if you're looking to make yeast happy, you would do the same thing in both spots, right? Maybe it's worth an experiment. Just to see what happens. It's tough to control for variables though, especially like in a house where it's like, oh, today it's 20 degrees warmer in here than it was yesterday or whatever. Because this time of year it's all sunny out and then it's cold out. Anyway, I'm not going to over mix it. Just looking for like that shaggy look or whatever. And then going to cover this and put it back in that nice warm spot in the oven next to the levain that is still chugging away, doing its final little, eating up as much as the sugar as it can to make more yeasties to get into here to do that part. So I'm going to cover this, put it in the oven, and then we'll come back for the next step, which will be mixing the two together in about half an hour to 45 minutes or so. Figured I'd show a quick view of just this, you know, this is what I'm talking about when I say I put it in the oven with the light on. Just the light generates like just enough heat. Sometimes a little too much heat, actually. You have to open up the door like with a towel or something. But you know, if your house is cold, if it's the middle of winter or something like that, you can do this and it keeps the things nice and happy in there. We can see our levain has puffed up and it's ready to go pretty much. So we're gonna let the auto ice run and then we'll mix the two together. And like most cooking, probably want to clean as you go. And if you're like me, you probably want to get your salt out. So it's impossible for you to forget that you still need to add salt, because I have done that before. Go through the whole process, bake it, take a bite, be like, oh, I didn't put salt in this. So it's all set up and ready to go. We're just waiting for our flour here. Alright, attempt number 2, to measure out 21 grams of salt. There we go. Now it seems to be measuring. 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21. Alright. Still seems like it was kind of a lot, but thankfully this is one of the things I think that the measurement's not that critical. You know, even though I always say it, like, these measurements shouldn't be like critical anyway. You know, like, get them as close as you can, but don't sweat it, you know, that kind of thing. Don't worry, have a homebrew. But salt, if there's anything that can have some leeway, that's the one. Like, I even think, you know, a little more salt might be nice, actually. So, we'll see. I think I need a better scale, too. Alright, so it is time to do our final mix of ingredients. So I'm going to take that salt that I had, sprinkle it over the top, whatever, just get it in there. And here is basically my main difference between the flour, water, salt, yeast recipe, 10-forkish one. Whereas I've never understood, in his recipe he has you make like basically twice as much as this and then measure out whatever it was, he has to measure out like 360 grams of it and then like throw the rest away. So I just figured like that's basically almost half of it that was getting thrown away. So instead, what I do now, I make just this much in the proportions that we did in the beginning of the video, and I put the entire thing into the batch. So there's my major customization. And then I use this bowl for my hand watering bowl. So I will fill it up with a little water. Quick rinse. Alright, so I've got my hand watering bowl, got my ingredients here. Now we're just going to do that hand mixing technique. I forgot to mention, by the way, before you start this part, where you really get into the dough, clean your hands really well, get in under the fingernails with a scrub brush, all that kind of stuff. Tie your hair back, put on a hat. You don't want hair flying around getting in this thing. So you give it these little scissor motions. And basically fold it in on itself. Start sticking to your hands. Just hands a quick little dip in the water. Just gonna keep rotating the bowl, reach underneath, fold it on top of itself until it seems like it's basically all back together again. Get my hands again. Cut it up into chunks, which I believe is just basically it's cutting up the strands of gluten that are forming in there. This is my theory. This isn't science. Take it with a grain of 21 grams of salt. But that's in addition to mixing. I'm sure we're also starting the gluten formation process here. But certainly the most important thing happening here is mixing all these ingredients together really, really well, so we don't end up with a pocket of salt or a pocket of levain. Pick it up, flip it over, give it one of those. Sure, this is one of those things that would be much, much easier with a machine, but what's the fun in that, right? So this is starting to look pretty good, pretty well mixed, I would say. Maybe give it some actual, almost stretch and folds, right? See what's going on. Literally, it does not matter at this stage, I think. Do whatever you want just to get it mixed up. Do one more set of these cuts. Oops, almost hit the camera. Alright, I'm calling that mixed. I'm going to get out one of my dough scrapers. Maybe do a little bit better job of pre-forming this to something resembling a ball. And then I just like to go around. This is more to make things easier later on. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. Keep things sort of clean. So now we enter the stretch and fold phase. So that whole thing, it's more like, yeah, maybe you do one like after 15 minutes. You do one, and then in 20 minutes after that, and 30 minutes after that, maybe a fourth one. Basically want to get 3 or 4 of them in, and it's more like the dough just kind of, if the dough seems like it's still too tense, then wait a little bit longer and it'll relax, and then you can get some better stretch and folds in. That part is another, I don't think it's science, right? It's more just like feel. It's art. It's the art of baking. So we're gonna do that. We'll cover it. We'll let it sit. We'll come back and we'll do a stretch and fold. Okay, back after 15 minutes for stretch and fold number 1. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Water, just in case. So we're gonna try to kind of peel it up from the edges a little bit. Inch down underneath, give it a lift, just kind of fold it over on itself. Try both hands on this one. Push down underneath, give it a lift, fold it over. Push down underneath, give it a lift, fold it over. Reach down underneath, give it a lift, fold it over, and then flip the whole thing over. Not sure why, that's just the way I learned it. But that's it. We're going to come back in probably another 15, I think, for these first 2. Do another one, and I'll see you then. Alright, we are back for stretch and fold number 2. I'm going to go with that 2-hand technique again, because I kind of like that. Seemed to work better. I'm officially recommending that now. So, reach underneath, lift it up, pull it over, flip it around, reach underneath, lift it up. See, it's already like, you can tell it doesn't want to stretch as much. So, means those glutens are forming in there, those little elastic bands. I wonder if maybe the whole part about, like this last part about just flipping it over, is just to make sure you don't get like the last like little piece stuck on the bottom or something like that that never got lifted up. That's all I can really think of. Apart from just getting the seam down, I guess that would make sense too. I don't know. I'm gonna keep doing it though. Alright, so this one probably I'll let chill for like half an hour. I'm actually gonna go for a run real quick and then come back. So however long that takes is how long this will sit for. Alright, we are back. It is now 8 o'clock. A little later than I was planning on doing this. So I think this might be the final stretch and fold. So instead of 4, we'll do 3. Like I said earlier, I believe, I think basically 3 or 4 is kind of what you're looking for. I believe there was even a Adam Ragusa video, right, where he said that he didn't do any stretch and folds and he saw a pretty good gluten filament. So, and this feels pretty, it's definitely, it's at that character now where it's changed completely. Like, look how smooth it is. You know, it's not like trying to tear. It's just happy to be folded over. So, I think we'll call it there. We're gonna let this rise, I think, probably 2.5 hours, maybe 3. Have to look at my sheet here for the timing and things. Started this a little late. I think I had almost like 11 o'clock on this one for shaping. So we'll see. We'll see how fast this rises. And we'll come back and we'll split it, shape it, and put it into baskets. Alright, I changed my mind. I'm gonna do one more stretch and fold. It's like almost 9 o'clock now. Basically 9 o'clock. 8:57. I figured I always do 4, so I'll do 4. And since I was planning on letting this go until 11 o'clock, until we do the shaping, I think we'll have time. We'll do like one of these gentle ones where you're not even like really super stretching it, you're just kind of reforming it. Flip it over again. Alright, there we go. Now that's the last stretch and fold, that's number 4. See you in 2 hours. Alright, we are back. It is 11:06 and it's time to get our dough out and into baskets. So step 1 is getting flour in the baskets so things don't stick. So I just kind of give it a little rub around in there, put whatever's left in there, that off to the side. This is the second one. I figured, you know, I'm just trying to like fill in the ridges a little bit and make sure that it's mostly filled in. And then whatever gets on the counter doesn't matter because we're dump a bunch of dough out there in 20 seconds or so. Get some flour on there. Time to retrieve the dough from the oven. Look at that. It is all nice and super risen, puffy. It passes the poke test. Not really, I guess. I don't know. I've never really gotten that to work very well. It's supposed to like bounce back, I guess, if it's proofed correctly. I think technically that might mean it's supposed to go a little longer. But it is 11 o'clock and I am tired. So this is happening right now. And I think it'll be fine. So I'm gonna get this in the camera first of all. So I'm gonna try to scrape this out of the bowl onto my floured countertop. There we go. Then a lot of people weigh these to get them like exactly the same weight. I just eyeball it. One's always bigger than the other, and I don't care. Cut those in half. Put one over here. Chill for a little bit so that we can work on this one. And basically, what I have learned, try to get this in front of the camera, to kind of stitch it up by pulling the corners in. into a nice little package. Get that all like that. Flip it over. You can tell this has a lot of air in it, which if I can do this without completely destroying it, should make for a nice puffy loaf. I'm gonna go to bake it. So I'm kind of dragging across. Just put that there. It'll be fine, right? Just to kind of flour my hands here a little bit. Too sticky. Do that, and then I'll drop it seam side down in my proofing basket. Now I will do the same thing with the other loaf. Take it out, pull the edges in, make a little dough ball package thing. Squeeze those parts together a little bit just to kind of get it going. Flour in the hands. I've seen a lot of people do this too. Maybe I'll try this on this one where you kind of fold it in half. And then start this skinning, balling process, whatever it's called. Making a dough ball. Not one of my best talents, I think, in this process. Something I need to work on. But there we go. I have two baskets with two things of dough in them, and it still look pretty puffy and all that, so I don't think I broke them too much. So now, since those look like they're pretty much ready to go, and because, like I mentioned, I'm tired and I want to go to sleep, I'm going to cover those immediately in saran wrap, and they're going to go into the refrigerator until tomorrow. Probably, since I'm running behind schedule here, we'll be baking these maybe around noon, 12, 1, something like that. At that point, I think it doesn't really matter all that much, because they're just in the fridge kind of chilling. I think you could really leave them there until, tomorrow night. Or maybe even like, the day after. I bet it would still be fine like pizza dough. But it'd be better. I need to try that at some point, but that will not be happening. We will be putting this into the fridge tonight and baking them tomorrow. So, till then. Why doesn't he go to 500? I would, except this oven has a weird problem where it shuts off if it gets too hot. 450 seems to be the limit. So that's the answer to that question. But normally, yeah, I would go to 500. Begin preheat. Begin preheat. Alright, it is time to bake bread. Had the oven preheating for an hour with the cast iron thing inside of it at the same time. So that should be nice and crazy hot. And I got one of my loaves out of the fridge, so I'm going to uncover it. And flour. And always the moment of truth, or one of the moments of truth, right? Will it come out on its own? How much, oh, there it goes. How much finagling will it take? Which in this case apparently was none. Another choice, you can leave it like this since we put in the seams on the bottom from when we made the the ball last night means that there's a bunch of weak spots here. So if I bake this just like this, it'll crack open on those weak spots. If you have a lame knife or any kind of sharp knife, you can put in some deeper scores and try to force certain parts to open. But I'm going to do the traditional one, at least on this initial loaf. Maybe the next loaf I'll try the score technique and we can compare and see what the differences are. So, very careful step number one. Get the Dutch oven out of the oven. Close the oven so we know these are heat. Take off the lid. Leave the whatchamacallit on there. The towel as a reminder that that is a very hot lid. Don't grab it with your bare hands. Lift up the dough. Put it in the Dutch oven. It's looking pretty happy in there. I like it. Put this back down. Take the lid. Put it back on. Get my other towel. Open the oven. Carefully grab it. Put it back in the oven. And we will set a timer for half an hour. And now all we have to do is wait for the awesome smell of fresh baked bread to start going all through the house. Alright, our half-hour timer has gone off, which means it's time to open the lid and see if it did its job. We have